Thinking Basketball Podcast. My name is Ben. Welcome back to another episode. Cody, I can't believe this. We're almost at the end of the playoffs. It's kind of weird. I mean, there are technically, 3 or 4, whatever calendar weeks left until we finish the finals, but we've played most of the playoff games we're going to play. There will be 4 to 7 finals games left, and there are a couple games left in each conference finals right now, because as of recording this, we're on what? We always get lost with the games. We can't keep track of them. We're on game 4 of the series, I think.
The Pacers Knicks are playing game 4 tonight.
And Thunder at game 5.
Yep, they just played game 4 last night.
Okay. So, I mean, I thought it would be a good time to check in, and we've been batting some stuff around for these last couple weeks on these shows. It has been an absolutely incredible playoffs, at least for me. I know a lot of basketball fans are very upset about everything all the time, but I've thought the basketball has been incredible during the playoffs. The games have been incredible. We've got all these comebacks. So, maybe it's time to discuss what we have learned from the 2025 playoffs.
Yeah, I got to say, especially last year, I think we were very excited going into the playoffs. I think they started off, there were a couple of really fun series, but then because of injuries, because of other stuff that was going on, it just feels like it fizzled out a little bit. I think many people look back at both the Pacers and the Celtics making the conference finals and were like, oh, that wasn't really a tough road. Does that really mean anything? This year feels where every game is just a rock fight. Every game, to me, basically every game and every round, besides maybe some of the first round ones, has been I need to sit here and watch this game because this is going to be awesome. And I really hope that continues, because I don't know if we have a ranking of the best front to back playoffs ever, but this is in contention. This isn't Usain Bolt in 2008 taking off. There's no one that far ahead, but this is a close race. And I hope people are able to slow down, smell some flowers, touch some grass, and appreciate just the incredible basketball that we are being gifted right now.
Touch grass? What is this? You mean go outside and experience the real physical world in person?
Or at least go to a gym and touch the turf. After you're done doing some sled pulls and pushes, get down and feel the turf and pretend you're outside. I think that could count too.
Okay. So, I mean, do you have anything that you want to start with that has jumped out to you about this postseason, whether it's the physicality of basketball, whether it's trends with teams, individual players? I mean, maybe that's actually the place to start for us, because we've talked about, we have to do our top 10 players of the year at the end of the year. We do sub all-stars. It's always something on our mind. When you get into the playoffs, what players do you go, oh, I'm higher on that guy than I was a month ago or the last time I really checked in, or the opposite. I'm lower on that guy. I didn't realize these little concerns in the back of my head that are flaws. Oh, it turns out when you get to the playoffs, there are big flaws. I'm sure you have a list that we could go through of some guys that fall in that category where you're higher on them now versus lower on them now that we've seen most of the 2025 tournament.
Can I broaden it out and say it about archetypes instead of specific players right now?
Of course. Yeah. Okay. I mean, would it be a Thinking Basketball podcast episode if you didn't change the question when I threw it over to you? Yeah.
Well, first of all, let me veer one more time, because I feel like one of the things I've learned so far, Ben, is that there are multiple ways to skin a cat. And then I have to follow up by asking, is there a better way to say that there are multiple ways to skin a cat? Is there a more polite way to say that there's multiple avenues towards a singular solution? Am I missing out on an idiom that they didn't invite me to come up with here?
Wait a second. Other ways to skin the cat?
Yeah, because if you talk about that there's multiple avenues towards solving some kind of problem, people are like, oh, there's multiple ways to skin a cat, and that just means that you can do it in different ways. Is there a nicer way to say it that doesn't involve that image?
So you're saying that in defense of cats, you want an alternative, right?
Yeah, I'm not even sitting here as a complete prude, but it's it's a little violent. There needs to be there's multiple ways to peel a banana or something like that. I just don't know.
We'll get our crack research team on this. I have no idea right now. Anyway, let's
okay.
Basketball. What do we got for the basketball?
So I would say for basketball for this one is that there are multiple avenues to be a successful basketball team, and
more than one way to cook an egg.
There's more than one way to. That's a good one. That's an excellent. There's multiple ways to cook an egg. I think that's a great way to say this. But every time I watch, I feel like I'm trying to change my unified theory of basketball. And I think at the end of the day, I just keep being like, you got to take the pieces that you have. Don't let perfection be the enemy of good. And you just got to build the best team that you can out of them. Because I think the first archetype that I keep thinking about, because we've seen this archetype pop up a couple of times in a couple of these rounds, is the viability of these big offensive rebound shot blocking machines. And I'm like, wow, isn't it strange that in the year of 2025, when it's all about spacing and you need guys that can switch out and guard all these actions and do these things, sometimes it's nice to just have a monster, massive human being to sit by the rim and Tyson Chandler swat out all these offensive rebounds to keep giving you stuff and to swat some shots away. So I think that's one thing I'm thinking about is, wow, there actually still is a place for these Titans that don't have a ton of ball skills, aren't going to be running delay action, aren't going to be setting up the offense, can't stretch the floor. But if they can be huge and grab offensive rebounds and block shots, they can have some massive value in the playoffs.
Who specifically are you thinking of here?
Well, I mean, I think earliest in the playoffs, you saw it with Steven Adams. And I think there was a question that's like, oh, maybe there's something special about Steven Adams himself. But I think right now we're seeing that with Mitchell Robinson in the Pacers-Knicks series.
Well, what's interesting is I don't think of those two players as the two archetypes you described. I think of those two players as offensive rebounding machines, right?
You're saying
did I mishear you?
You're saying you don't see them as being like rim protecting?
Yeah, exactly. I think of them as more. I mean, they do have an element of that. Obviously, they're both drop defenders, right? Mm-hmm. And they both do have rim protection. But when I think of them, I think of the rebounding component first, because Steven Adams is probably the best offensive rebounder we've had in the league in the 2020s. I mean, he's an incredible offensive rebounder. I think he's definitely the best offensive rebounder this year, and probably when he's healthy for a while. And Mitchell Robinson is a top tier offensive rebounder and has a little bit of that like old school Dennis Rodman archetype, which turned into a ton of players over the years, just trying to spam rebounds. Jason Williams for the Nets, not white chocolate Jason Williams, limo driver Jason Williams. If you don't know, use the Google, and because I'm not going to talk about it here. And Reggie Evans and players like that. That's what I feel like Mitchell Robinson getting down into the lane and like wedging himself under the basket and trying to grab boards. But is that in line what we're thinking of, or were you thinking of really like the defensive archetype that we've seen in the regular season, Roy Hibbert, Rudy Gobert, et cetera, et cetera?
So I it's closer to what you just said. I think I'm being very kind by comparing them to Tyson Chandler, because I think I've texted you this multiple times where I keep watching these playoffs and being like, man, I need to go rewatch 2011 and reappreciate just how awesome Tyson Chandler was.
Right.
Because Tyson Chandler had, I don't know if he was as strong of an offensive rebounder as we're seeing Steven Adams and Mitchell Robinson do in their minutes. But in terms of rim protection and defense, like he was miles ahead of both of them. Like he was just the anchor, just an incredibly valuable player on that championship team. But you're right. These two guys skew a lot more towards the offensive rebounding archetype. And honestly, I think that makes my point a little bit more odd, makes them a little bit more enigmatic as players. Cause you're like, really, like guys who specialize in offensive rebounding and aren't like Titan defensive players are actually carving out some valuable minutes in the playoffs, especially like, can you imagine if someone's like, hey, we're going to have a giant guy grab a bunch of offensive rebounds against this Pacers team that just spreads you out and runs everywhere. Do you think they'll get minutes? I'd be like, no, what are you talking about? Like, have you watched basketball in a decade? But here he is. He's going out there and he's a player you have to contend with every night.
Well, I think actually what works there, at least in theory, and certainly in some of the limited minutes he's had, is he's so good at offensive rebounding as an individual that you don't have to crash the glass with three guys every time and then set yourself up to be exposed in transition, because that, of course, is what part of what Indiana is so good at off a miss. If you have guys down near the baseline or down on the block and they're pressing in and crashing the glass and you get it, like who can grab it? Siakam, Halliburton, Nembhard, it doesn't matter. They're busting out of there like it's the 100-meter finals. And then you're exposed because you sent all those guys to the glass. Mitch Rob, since they put him in the starting line, they put him in the starting lineup last game, and then the game before he played more minutes. And it's like, since that change, there are times where he's grabbing offensive rebounds without other guys crashing. And that's what stands out to me. So maybe it is an offensive rebounding specific thing, or maybe it's a larger thing about offensive rebounding where it's like offensive rebounding still lives. I know that's something you've talked about in the past before, right? Like it's a big deal if you have an advantage on the glass. And I think we've seen that in some of these series. We've called it out in some of our member videos where if you get a mismatch, you get a switch, right? Everyone's playing switch hunting basketball. They're dribbling around in the pick and roll. Hey, come up here and, bring this slow big man up with me. Bring Jared Allen up with me. And now Darius Garland all of a sudden is going to switch onto Miles Turner. And that creates offensive rebounding opportunities. And you see that a lot sometimes where there will be multiple offensive rebounds in a sequence like that. But because the game is happening so fast or it's on a certain network, no one will notice that that's what caused the offensive rebounding advantage in the first place. So maybe there's a larger offensive rebounding picture here.
I feel like there's almost even a larger picture of like the pendulum swinging too far in one direction, right? Because I don't even know how long, I think I say a decade ago, and in my mind, everything analytical happened a decade ago, right? And maybe that was like when stuff started writing, and like Zach Lowe was at Grantland and he was using like Raptor to track people, and you were really deep in this stuff, right?
No, you're just whispering sweet nothings to me. Continue, yes.
Player tracking was just hitting like out there. You're getting some more play-by-play stuff, and everything was out there. It was just this vast, like, brave new world that we were a part of here. But it felt like a bunch of teams abandoned the offensive rebound, like completely. Like you'd watch so many possessions of uncontested rebounds, and I think that kind of led into the like Russell Westbrook averaged a triple-double, but like look at how contested those defensive rebounds are, because like no one's crashing down there. And I almost think there's too far of a swing where it's like, okay, so if nobody's going for the offensive rebound, there has to be some space in here where you go from like, we're going to send 3 guys down there to fight for every offensive rebound versus like once in a while, maybe we have this person that's like eerily good at this skill and we can use him in slots here. So I think maybe that's one thing I've learned is like, don't swing the pendulum too far and completely just like follow what seems to be the zeitgeist in terms of how the NBA is going, and try and carve out space for all of these skills somehow, because basketball is chaotic and random, and sometimes you never know when something's going to gain extra value.
You've once again thrown me a major curveball to start this out. I thought you were going to come out. I thought you were going to be like, Ben, I've gone up on Pascal Siakam in these playoffs. He's continuously improved as a slow, steady burn of his improvement since the 2019 championship video in Toronto, since the OG. He's the OG thinking basketball profile that we ever did. And here you are giving us, 10 minutes on Steven Adams' Aquaman and offensive rebounds.
I mean, where else to start? I mean, we could talk about more big man stuff. I'm all about the big man. I'm about offensive rebounding. I like defense. I don't know. It feels like that's the weirdest part of the playoffs for me so far, and the thing that's throwing me for a loop in terms of how to analyze what's going on. Do you want to talk about Siakam? Because I could easily switch to Siakam. I got some thoughts about that, man.
Well, not just Siakam. I'm just wondering, first let's start with this. Is he one of these players that in your head watching this tournament, you've gone, oh yeah, I'm a little bit higher on this guy than I was 6 weeks ago?
I don't know if it's annoying to like cite things that you say in previous podcasts, but
me or you?
Both. Like you cite yourself.
I think if you cite yourself, it's okay. You don't want to cite me.
Okay. Like I'm writing the paper and like I'm writing it and I'm like Hodek 2025. And it's like, really? Just self-referential much here?
You have to, by the way, in academia, you have to do that. You have to cite yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You totally
which
do.
is really awkward. Yeah.
One thing that always drove me crazy is sometimes I would find a citation and it was somebody citing themselves, but their citation was just the book. Like it wasn't a page number. It wasn't like a specific section. It was just
everything I said. Everything I said in this book.
I'm like, so I need to go back and read the entire book to like get this single point you're going
because
for?
when you're an author of that stature, that's what you do. Yeah. The reason I know that is because when I was in college, I tripped a plagiarism alarm once because I started the class the semester before, dropped it after the first week, and then came back when I took the class for real. So I had started the assignment. So part of my assignment was in the digital records that they cross-referenced. And that was not a fun couple days. I was like, what do you mean I wrote that? And they're like, well, you're plagiarizing. I'm like, who? They're like, you. I'm like, what? Anyway, Cody, go ahead.
It feels like a Spaceballs bit.
Yeah.
Like turn it in Spaceballs type of bit. Pascal Siakam. So citing myself from earlier, I said at one point a couple of months ago that I think Siakam is comfortably better than Jaylen Brown. So I've had a pretty high opinion of Pascal Siakam going into these playoffs. But even that said, some of the tough mid-range shots that the Pacers can just go to in these playoffs, right? Like, you go back to that 2019 profile, the big part of him is like, look at this guy get out in transition. He's flying all over the place. He's picking up the pace for this Raptors team. But now he's got also that slow down, grimy, oh, here's a double. Great. I'm going to spin and still hit this fadeaway over you. Oh, I'm going to go back and do that exact same thing again. But he's also outrunning guys. Like, there's a play in this last game where he and Towns kind of land at the same time. And Siakam's like, oh, I'm just going to beat you down the court. Sprints. And I think it ends up being a touch pass. Like, they throw to him cutting. Some of the defensives converge. He kicks it to the corner. I think it's a missed three. But he has all of those elements of the game. And the fact that he can add like the grimy, I'm going to take some tough shots and make them in the playoffs. Maybe he actually does raise a little bit. He rises a little bit in my estimation. So I'm very high on Siakam, but I do think the playoffs also make me think even higher of him than before.
This is so funny. That play you're thinking of was from game 2.
No.
Yeah.
I don't
The one where he sprints down the court, catches it, and touch passes it to the corner for a missed 3.
Yeah. Is there?
Anyway.
Do you not think? Okay, just like I'm looking at my notes, and everyone's gonna.
I know exactly the play you're talking about. It's a great play.
You're absolutely right.
It happened in Madison Square Garden. This is so funny. We can't keep track of the games on this show. Okay, so let's maybe do it this way. Can I put you on the hot seat?
Mm-hmm.
I want to give you a player.
Yep.
I'm gonna give you a number of players, and I want you to tell me if you've changed your mind or your assessment of them based on what we've seen in these playoffs. Julius Randle.
Oh my goodness. This one, listen. If we were doing like literary comparisons for players, Julius Randle would be Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And
this is so good.
In this most recent game we watched, now you've got me complete. I gotta go back to my notes. In game 4 of Thunder Timberwolves, Mr. Hyde was poking out quite a bit. Like he was appearing. We saw a lot of Dr. Jekyll earlier. Like, he was doing the best of Julius Randle. You know, he was passing well. He was a lead hub for their creation. He was being physical. Thunder are kind of scrambling him a little bit.
Right.
So at the end of the day, from where I started at the beginning of the playoffs, I actually think my estimation's gone up a little bit, but It's not as up as it was in the first and second round.
I want to start with him because it's so interesting. Don't you think that a lot of what we're seeing is the opponent and the situation where Randle has been in these situations in the past in New York, whether it was before Brunson or with Brunson there, where he's sort of overtasked or playing a certain role in his head that's an extension of like, hey, did you know when I ran the bench unit with the Lakers who won 21 games, I could average 26 a night? Like, this is the sort of Mr. Hyde Randle I think you're talking about. But then he's put in this situation in Minnesota where he's clearly not driving the ship. And all of a sudden, as the year progresses and as he fits in there, you get this second half of the year where it's like, oh, he's trying. It's addition by subtraction. He's trying less and he's doing more. He's making cleaner and crisper decisions because he's not having to shoulder this burden. When you get into a playoff situation, all of a sudden, when that's your team and your first round opponent is the Lakers, and they're very slow and very limited, and that's how they're going to defend. Doesn't that simplify everything and simplify the game? Second round, Golden State Warriors. I mean, we almost need a timeout. That's the most surreal playoff series ever. I was watching something for a video we're working on the other day, and Steph Curry and all these dynamic things came up from game 1 before his injury. And I was like, wait a second, the Warriors were in the playoffs? Steph Curry was never eliminated from the play. He played the Wolves? What is going on? So all I'm saying is, don't you think there's a large sort of context thing versus Randle's very, very good and Randle's very, very bad, Jekyll Hyde?
So I think being able to take advantage of simplified situations is an underrated skill. And I don't think everyone has that ability. Like, sometimes players are still out there, and no matter how the situation changes, it just doesn't work for that. And I think a great example is you look at like James Wiseman's time in Golden State, right? Like, that should be a situation you could see somebody thrive like that, and it just doesn't work, right? And then you see people like Derek Lively can show up to the Mavericks as a rookie, and he's just like, great, I'm going to fit in perfectly. I'm going to do everything here. So I think the fact that Randle could take that simplified situation, be like, I'm going to make as much lemonade as I can here. I wasn't 100% sure that he could pull that sort of thing off. So yeah, I think just because of that, I feel a little bit better about him than I did prior to the playoffs.
I like that. I like that. Let me give you some quick ones. Nikola Jokic,
Same.
Shea Gilgeous-Alexander.
Ooh. Okay, two levels. Two levels. Man, this is a tricky one. I want to say same, and maybe even slightly higher.
Yeah, that's where I am. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you tell me why you're thinking?
No, it's this. I'm like kind of exactly the same, but also I think the more you continue to do the "you're the man" things, the more that solidifies the fact that you're the man,
Yeah.
right? And so even though at times, and I almost want to go back, and I haven't rewatched Game 4 from the Timberwolves series, which I thought in watching it and taking notes and scouting it and sort of digesting it, that it was like, wow, that was really impressive from Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. And then I think his raw box stats at the end of the game were like 40 points and 9 or 10 assists, and his turnovers have been extremely low, which is very underrated. And so going back to the Denver series and all the stuff we did on the chess match, sort of this duel back and forth between the way Denver was defending him and how he countered and how he got better over the course of the series. Like all these things are really impressive. And then you look at the other part of the box score and you're like 13 to 30. I don't remember that. Like even in game 1 of this series, I think it was Mike De La Rosa, who our Mike De La Rosa, he texted me, he's like, Shea's 2 for 13 at halftime or wherever it was. I'm like, no, he's not. I was like, I know. So sometimes you bleed efficiency in these small samples because of heaves and because you have the ball at the end of the clock and you come down the lane and you miss a shot, and then you tip it and it counts as 2 field goals and things. So I don't know if it's that. And we're literally talking about just a couple plays here and there that would have the efficiency also at normal. But I am both more impressed, but also weighed down by trying to balance, like, you're not going to be a 34 point per game scorer in the playoffs against elite defenses. Like that, those regular season numbers right now compared to the playoff numbers are a little different. And then there's the physicality component where there's been more physicality allowed in the playoffs. Despite the consternation of apparently the entire planet Earth, they haven't called a lot of the hand checks. Sorry, they called a lot of the hand checks in the regular season, and they haven't called them as much in the playoffs. And I think those things are chipping away at his scoring efficiency, but his decision making and sort of like overall command of the game have been really impressive to me.
Yeah, I would say the fact that when you have a guy that you go into the playoffs, Timberwolves have a bunch of great one-on-one defenders, and he's kind of proving that you just can't play him one-on-one. Like if you're going to play a vanilla type of defense, and you're not going to if you're not going to gap hard, so you're not going to reduce like the driving angles, you're not going to run some kind of zony concepts. He's going to eviscerate you just over and over. And I think like the best illustration of it, there's like 7 minutes left in game 4, right? And the game, it's pretty tight. Like this is game 4 is really fun. That was an excellent basketball game. And at this point, like there's a Naz Reid switch. So Shea gets Naz Reid on him. And then that's kind of the end of the defensive possessions for the Wolves. They're like, great. Naz Reid's a little mobile big. Like he's going to take advantage of him. And Shea's like, I'm just going to kind of walk the dog until I step back into this mid-ranger, and he just buries it. Like you can't let Shea just kind of waltz into wherever he wants to get back. Because if he gets that rhythm, it's over. The whole point of Shea is you have to throw away that rhythm, and you need all these other kinds of defensive concepts to get him out of that so he doesn't just cook you.
Is that the one where he's moving like left to right across the lane? Do you remember the play you're talking about, or are you just talking about the generic idea?
No, there's definitely there's a play. I think he's going left, right. I thought he's near.
He takes a mid-ranger. Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So what's so interesting about that exact play, and it gets into the sort of nitty-gritty of that series, is the Thunder love to set up the floor so Shea can get to these sweet spots. We've talked about it all year. In fact, he had a great mic'd up moment in one of the games in this series where he's telling a teammate to move through, bring your defender with you, and then he can, quote, drive the elbow, meaning he doesn't even need to get all the way to the basket, right? He can get to those shorter spots where he's absolute money from 12 to 17 feet when he's in rhythm and has space to set up those shots. And that particular play you're talking about with Naz Reid, it is the idea of letting Naz defend him by himself to the max, because there's a defender on his right hand sitting there at the elbow, and the Thunder player, as they love to do, just cuts through and the defender just goes with him, and Shea, understanding what's happening, just starts the move and pulls up right next to everybody. And it's like that you can't defend him that way. And part of that to me is what's been so impressive in these playoffs. Do you have any other Shea thoughts, or can I give you another guy?
Yeah, I just I wanted to highlight the Patreon video, the extras video you did for Shea, and the fact that like I think the playoffs are also showing some of the passing creation weaknesses that he might have. Like he's not great at the skip pass. He can make it, but he's not going to just pull you apart like Jokic or LeBron or some of these other guys can. So I think that's something that's being highlighted a little bit more in these playoffs. Can I budge in line here and ask you a guy?
Of course. Yes.
Yeah.
Now we're getting somewhere. This is what I thought we were going to start with. And we had, of course, 9 minutes on plagiarism and Steven Adams. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't think the offensive rebound section was long enough. Like
I know that.
I think a complicated fellow to talk about in the playoffs. How do you feel about one of our faves, Jalen J-Dub Williams?
It's on my list right here to ask
Perfect.
you. So it's a beautiful segue. I was lower, like a clear sort of little drop, a clear and little. I don't know if that sounds sort of contradictory to people, but it was clear, but not enormous. But there's a clear leveling down of the offense for Jalen Williams and the ability to be a secondary driver of offense. And Shea's on the bench, or you need second side reset actions. And I too can run the pick and roll. I can make the decisions. I can handle some of this defensive pressure or draw some of this defensive pressure and create good offense for us. And man, that's just been a huge disappointment. Now, with that said, we are starting to see in the last couple of games in this Minnesota series, we are starting to see the things that made you and I so high on where Jalen Williams was. And if going forward, this turns out just to be the growing pains, if you will, Cody, the lumps that you have to take to kind of learn how to get over these things, both physically and psychologically, then I think that would alleviate a lot of that, because he's been really good in a couple of these games. But the defense is amazing. I'm not worried about the defense at all. It's the offense that is like, are you going to be a decent number 2 offensive player, or are you going to be like a like a supercharged Derek White or something? Those are different categories of players when you're that good at defense.
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but my hunch, just based on what I'm watching, is it feels like J-Dub has been better as a literal secondary playmaker when Shea is on the court versus being the guy that steps up when Shea goes to the bench. All right. Again, it's just a hunch I have. I thought during the regular season, some of the numbers backed this up a little bit. I know we had a segment, and I was concerned about some of the shot selection, the tough middies he went through. There was a particular game we talked about where he just had a ton of like early offense, contested pull up mid-range stuff. And I'm like, this is just not what you want to see from a guy that's running the offense. So I still feel like he's better when Shea is on the court with him and there's other creators next to him, because he's been shooting the lights out recently in these games. And I think some of these really hot games he's had has covered up some of the stinkers that he had maybe a little bit early in the playoffs.
It hasn't fully covered it. I mean, his efficiency is still minus 5% true shooting in these playoffs, which is, you can get around neutral or whatever. And I think we could be okay. We can work with that. We can work with that when you're a passer and a cutter and a rebounder. Yeah.
There was a play in game 4 where he takes Conley like one-on-one, and he's kind of like trying to like back him down and dance, and he kind of loses his balance and he rises up, and Conley just straight up blocks him. like
yes.
Oh, this is like, Conley's awesome. I love Conley. Defensively, like, this is going to get some people angry. Maybe a little overrated in his prime. Still a frisky little quick defender with some nice hands. But like,
poor Mike. He's just catching strays here.
Listen, I love Mike Conley. He's one of my all-time favorites. I love that guy. I think, on the other hand, he might be underrated offensively at his peak. That's another conversation for another day. But anyway, he's like, I don't know, 30 whatever years old, just blocking J-Dub straight up. I thought that was incredible. They didn't highlight that one enough on the coverage.
Okay, I got one for you now.
Okay.
Tyrese Halliburton.
Oh, higher.
Yeah.
Higher.
Tell me more, Cody.
Oh my God. Just the process of the way that this guy plays basketball, the way that like he catches it. And I said it last time with the 0.5 second basketball. It's beyond, this guy's like a 0.25 player. It's unbelievable how he can just like relocate, He catches immediately to somebody else. He relocates, drives, kicks to somebody. It's unreal how quick and fast. And I was trying to prime myself to think about point guards. And I went back and rewatched the Thinking Basketball video on Steve Nash.
Ooh,
and it's so interesting how different these extraordinarily high level passers are, because Steve Nash and Tyrese Halliburton are both just genius level passers, but they couldn't play a more different style, right? They're both great shooters. They can finish whatever else, but Halliburton just doesn't hold the ball. He's really a not traditional, like high level, high assist point guard that you see. And yet he's just so good at what he does to drive the offense. So I think just because of that, the fact that I think if you stacked up other like strong offensive weapons next to him, the fact that he's like coexisting with Pascal Siakam, I just think the world of that guy.
I agree. Yes, very well said. And I think you nailed it with the process. The decision making from Halliburton at high speeds as part of the DNA of this unbelievably beautiful magnetic offense that Indiana runs. It's fairly unique, and it is really powerful. You know, high playmaking, low turnovers, and he's a good shooter. He can get to the basket when he needs to get to the basket. Just a really fun, interesting player. Can I throw more at you?
Absolutely.
Karl-Anthony Towns.
Is it first 3 quarters Karl-Anthony Towns or 5 minutes?
I don't know. It's just the Karl-Anthony Towns experience. Like, I still don't entirely know what to make of it.
I think, all right, first of all, I think I have this down. But if I'm not mistaken, here's the stretch starting with about 10 minutes left in, what was that, game 3?
Is this game 3 from the Pacers and then the huge New York comeback, their third 20-point comeback of the playoffs.
So Towns gets in the corner, ISOs, and he does a nice little move to score around Miles Turner.
Yeah.
Next play, hits a 3.
Mm-hmm.
I think I may have mixed it up already.
No, you're fine. There's another drive.
Yep.
In there.
Driving layup I have.
Yep.
Right. He has he trails, catches a 3, buries the 3. Next play, he posts and draws a shooting foul.
Yep. Then
next play, he kind of pops up for a 3.
Yeah. When's the cut dunk after that?
And then after that's the cutting poster dunk.
Yeah.
I think those are successive plays. Like, I don't think anything else happens between them. And I, just watching the game, losing my mind. Like, Karl-Anthony Towns, like, this is right after I think Brunson goes to the bench, or a little bit after he goes to the bench with 5 fouls. It's like Towns is just taking over. Like, he's just like, I'm the best player in the world. Watch this, everybody.
Well, what did you make? This is a very subtle thing. What did you make of Indiana not sending help, basically, which they haven't really done in this series? So in this stretch you're talking about, both in the post-ups that he had and on the drives, they're not sending doubles or triples or soft doubles, and they're not jumping into his driving gaps to help on that potential advantage where, again, if you're Karl-Anthony Towns, you do not get the same mismatch when you're guarded by Siakam or Tobias Harris or Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown or some big forward who can take away your quickness advantage. But when you get Miles Turner on you, now you're like a guard. Mm-hmm. And he's not the same passer as a small guard off the dribble, but he is a really good passer right before he dribbles. Mm. So he can hit passes if you're shading defense or clogging lanes and there's a cutter open. In fact, in that game, I mean, part of the Karl-Anthony Towns experience, he had 2 great passes from the top of the key, 2 cutters, might have been OG Anunoby on both. My memory's too fractured to remember all these details, Cody, but I mean, you get that on offense, right? And then on the flip side, you have all these questions all the time on defense about both technique and, like, I think about that dunk that you just talked about coming down the lane. 7-footers who can do that and shoot, extremely rare. But also, those athletic skills that he has don't translate to reactive defense. When you're on offense in basketball, you're dictating with your body and the ball and your moves. When you're on defense, you're reacting. And then you have to plug in the awareness component these days of, okay, I'm in pick and roll coverage. Here comes the ball. Also, is there a cut over there? Did I have a salami sandwich for lunch? What else? Boom, the play's over, right?
Yeah.
And this is the Karl Anthony Towns experience where when you look on film, even in that comeback down the stretch, he had back-to-back breakdowns in pick and roll. I think Halliburton hit a 3 on one of them and then missed the 3 on the second, but you're just like, oh man, you took over the game. But also, if you're the 5, we have a problem. Maybe defensively, what are we going to do? But if you have a 4, we don't have a problem. And that, of course, unlocks the entire conversation in that game about Jalen Brunson, and him being off the court only gave the Knicks sort of this quote unquote one defensive weakness. And I thought that changed the entire dynamic of the fourth quarter. This is the Towns experience, Cody. It's just wild.
All I marked was near the end of the third quarter, I was like, the Knicks are trying to switch everything, but the Pacers are going so quickly that they can't like formulate who's switching to whom. And I think Turner gets a dunk near the end of the third where he's just like open under the rim.
That was
because people jumped out to the corner, I think.
Yeah, Josh Hart and whoever was the other defender there. That was on Hart. Hart called for a switch on that play. And then instead of letting the guy switch, Hart panicked and also went out to the shooter. But you're spot on. Once they made that change, instead of avoiding mismatches and switching and things like that, there was one play in this game, I think it was in the first quarter, where the Pacers went to put Jalen Brunson in pick and roll, and Brunson pre-switched with Mitchell Robinson. He goes, Mitch, you go up there. You big man, go 30 feet away and go up there. You never see that. And that's kind of this dynamic when you include Towns with a guard like this, or you put Towns in different situations, you have this whole question mark defensively. The flip side is offensively, he just does so much when you put him at the 5. So do we have an answer on this? Do we have an answer? Are you higher, lower, or the same on Karl Anthony Towns?
Can I throw it, going back to our academic language?
Yeah.
What's like a pre-release for a paper where it's like, here's kind of what I'm going to write.
That's a preprint.
A preprint. All right.
Yeah.
I have a working preprint that maybe we'll dust off in the offseason or something. I kind of think that the stretch 5 is a myth. I think if you look through the numbers throughout all of playoff history and you look up 5s that legitimately take volume 3s and make them at like a percentage you have to defend, they don't exist. But I think Karl Anthony Towns is one of them. And I think there's like 3 in history, and I think Karl Anthony Towns is one of them. And you can't deny that does a lot of stuff for their spacing.
Miles Turner better be on your list.
Have you looked at his percentage in this series? Because this is my whole thing.
The series is too small of a sample, don't you think?
I don't remember what it is in the playoffs, but I know Turner is right up there near the top. Like there's, if you just try and query, is that how you pronounce the word? Is it query? I don't know if I said it out loud. Yeah.
Yeah, query.
I've never said it out loud.
This is before. Amazing. This is a safe space. No one's listening. It's just you and me.
When you query like a certain number of attempts per 100 and then like filter through percentages, there just aren't 5s that shoot at a high percentage. I think Turner is one of them that gets close at least. Towns is, of course, one of them. I think like post-prime Al Horford is somebody that gets there. It just doesn't exist. So people can come and argue with me on that one, but I think that's an interesting one. That's my roundabout way of saying that I feel exactly the same way about Towns as I did before the playoffs.
Okay, yeah. I don't know if I've changed. He just exists in this fuzzy area of like, what do you do with this person who has all these strengths but all these weaknesses, and yet is clearly very good at NBA basketball? I don't know.
I think what you have to keep in mind for Towns is he's going to have to defend. So here are the things that we knew ahead of time. Going to have defensive breakdowns. He can shoot. He can pass. Sometimes he's going to disappear, but sometimes he's going to give you the game of his life and you're not going to lose that game. That's Towns.
Yeah. The guy was traded for, Gobert. Any new thoughts?
Can you start with this one? Can you
start? I just feel like I'm just a little bit lower, but I don't know if that's just age, or maybe the larger thing for me there is that the league is continuing to get so much more skilled, and when you combine the pace and the types of offenses that are being played and all sorts of stuff like that, for Rudy Gobert not to be able to punish people offensively, it feels like it stands out more than it did maybe 2 years ago, and way more than it did 6 or 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I see a lot more plays where Rudy Gobert is driving and I'm like, wow, where's this adventure gonna end up today?
Yeah.
Maybe he's rolling and he catches and he's in space, and then just the Thunder hands are just there, and it kind of goes all over the place. I don't know. I feel like even during the season, I don't want to speak for you, so I'll speak for myself because I speak, therefore I am here. But I thought this was a bit of a down year for Gobert defensively comparatively to the year before. Like, I think when we did the Thinkies last season, I voted him as the best interior defender.
Yep.
And I didn't consider that this year. And I don't even know if he ended up number 2, but I thought it was pretty close between him and a couple of people. So I don't know if it is an age decline, but I also really like your point about the offense. So maybe I'm actually lower on his offense and I'm still like holding firm defensively for him. Because I did think in game 4, like there were a lot of possessions where I'm watching. I'm like, man, he's making it really tough down there. Like maybe the block numbers are down, but the Thunder really can't just like walk to the rim and make layups when he's patrolling the paint. So I don't know. Jury's out.
I have 2 more guys I'm higher on.
You're higher on?
Higher on. Yeah.
Do you want me to ask you and see if I can land on them?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah. One of them we've talked about already. We may have even explicitly talked about this last week.
Today. Oh, okay. Well, I just need to say his name because he deserves it. Is one of them Andrew Nembhard?
No, you're so close. It's Aaron Gordon. There's
Ooh.
there's A's everywhere here.
Okay.
Yeah. Andrew Nembhard, okay. Is it possible to be higher on Andrew? Andrew Nembhard is the best player in the league, right?
Yeah. But now he's a GOAT candidate.
No, he's really good. He's really good. I think I wasn't going to ask you about Andrew Nembhard in this episode because I want a larger sample. But if you're saying, Ben, from an analytical standpoint, just in these playoffs, how good is Andrew Nembhard? Like the answer is like really, really good. Like he would be on our sub all-star team, and I wouldn't sweat it at all. But it's a small sample so far.
I think I was trying to figure out exactly what it is that makes rookie Nembhard so spectacular. Like something that he does that really juices their offense. I can't think of a lot of guys in the league that it's kind of the J-Dub thing. He can flow really well in and out of like, I'm running the pick and roll, but also I'm spacing the floor, but also I can do this random cut, but also on the other hand, I'm going to be a dog on defense, right? Like you take all of that collection of talent without being like, hey, I'm a grade A offensive star and I'm just going to run the show. I think that's extremely valuable to have. And I think it flies under the radar because the box score stats don't jump out to you like a traditional superstar.
It's low volume, but the decision making is very good. You're not taking stuff off the table. And again, to the sample size issue of these playoffs, I mean, when you make your mid-rangers at 47%, you shoot threes at what is he, like 93% from downtown? When you shoot like that and your efficiency's off the charts and you play this role, it is very Derek White-ish, right? Where you're not the primary guy. You don't have the juice to be the primary guy, but you do so many things well in addition to your incredible defense and what that on-ball defense does for the team. Interesting little thing statistically, since you mentioned the box stars.
The box stars. I think we should refer to people as the box stars that pop out when you look at the stats.
But is it a pejorative term? Is Adrian Dantley the ultimate box star? Because a lot to think about there. We'll let you everyone chew on that, and they can send us messages to decide what we should do. But with Nembhard, take for Indiana the ability to have a second pick and roll guy to kind of let Halliburton go off ball a little bit, or sometimes when Halliburton's on the bench, you don't have to run every possession through TJ McConnell or whatever it is. So if you look at the numbers and the efficiency in pick and roll, Nembhard this season, according to the tracking data, was like slightly ahead in his efficiency in the pick and roll of players like Jalen Brunson, Chris Paul, Tyler Hero, Derek White, James Harden, right around like Trae Young, Steph Curry. I think he was like top 20. So to be able to have that, I think is a really powerful thing. And yeah, he's playing great. The other guy I was thinking of, Cody, was OG Anunoby.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Okay, I'll let you. Yeah. So it sounds like you're higher on him as well because he's really good at basketball.
It's just even on the defensive end, it feels like there's so many plays where I'm like, that was him? He just blocked that? His hand was there. He jumped that passing line. It feels like he's everywhere.
Have you reached the point where you're not sure if you should keep writing it in your notes because you're like, I think he does this 8 times. Why am I writing them all down? This is like the 9th one this game. Oh, there was someone made a great play and rotated at it was OG Anunoby. Okay, yeah.
There's actually a play. We'll bring this guy up a little bit later, but there is actually a guy that I realize I don't take notes about it because I just take it for granted. And I think OG's defense is definitely something that you can take into that, because you start and you're like, oh, OG did a great rotate. I hope you blocked him at there. It's like, oh no, that's abnormal. Like, this guy is really, really good. And it's really too bad that he has the injury history he has, because he really should be very clearly seen as a premier perimeter defender. And of course he is, but I feel like I always miss out on him personally because I'm factoring in the idea that he's missed 30 games here or something like that. But healthy OG these playoffs has been unbelievable for the Knicks.
All right, do you have any more players you want to you're either higher or lower on based on the playoffs?
Yeah, I just foreshadowed one of them. Can we talk about Jalen Brunson for a second?
Oh, yeah, please.
Mm-hmm. So he's the guy I was just talking about, where I just take for granted the shot making that this guy has. And I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm not going to write this down. The fact that Jalen Brunson just like snaked this pick and roll and he's taking this guy one-on-one and he's kind of twisting around and all of a sudden he pump faked himself into a mid-range fade. I'm like, that's normal. That's cool. But it's unbelievable. Like, there's no other way to put it. But when you talk about inelastic scores, like if we were to we talk about inelastic shots, I think in terms of like Luka, but if we were to make a list of inelastic scorers, these guys that can just ignore the highest defense and it really doesn't matter, he's going to get to his spot. Jalen Brunson would be really, really high on that list, because we just have a lot of evidence now that you can throw a lot of different guys at him. You can throw some coverages at him, and he's just going to keep going and get to his spots. And I think something that really helps is, the low center of gravity, right? So he's a strong dude, low center of gravity. He's got a great functional handle, Ben, right? Like, I don't necessarily think he's going like breaking into the and one mixtape with like the Kyrie stuff, but he's got a good economy of handle where he can get to where he wants, and it's really tough to strip him. And then he just has the footwork and the movements to get the shot off kind of wherever he wants. And you combine all of that in this little package that is Brunson, who got a dunk last game. That was sick. You just get this guy that just keeps coming at you, and there's really nothing you can do.
Yeah, I think Jalen Brunson at this point in time is Reggie Miller adjacent when it comes to the clutch. I mean, it's ridiculous. Every game, I just yell at my television, whoever's around. If my wife's in the room, I'm just like, watch this, right? And sometimes great players miss clutch shots, and we know the drill. But for the most part, when like the chips are down and the cards are down, no cats are getting skinned. It's just poker. There's the chips and the cards, and Jalen Brunson, he gets airspace on a three. He gets to the basket. He needs to make a floater. In the last game, it was just like chisel, spin, push shot or something with a minute left, which was the game-winning field goal effectively. I don't think there are any field goals after that in game 3 of the Pacers-Knicks series. It's just ridiculous. I don't even know what the stats say at this point, but it's just ridiculous. In one play, how could you have so many big shots in one playoffs in one season? His count must be off the charts at this point.
I don't have it. I don't have it normalized to 75 possessions here, but just looking at some of the raw data here for this series alone. So we're only 3 games in, but still, this series alone, Jalen Brunson's averaging 34 points a game on 61.5% true shooting. I mean, the Pacers aren't a slouch defensively, right? Like, he ignores Nembhard. Aaron Nesmith is out there being strong. Like, all of these guys, like Miles Turner can protect the paint. Siakam's made some spectacular paint plays and can switch around. It's unbelievable. Just unbelievable.
Since we've talked about all the Jalens, can we full circle back to Jaylen Brown? Have you changed your rankings at all from our Jalen Great Debate episode?
What was the rank? So we had Brunson first.
Brunson was first by himself, and then the question was Brown and J-Dub in a kind of similar space, and I think I was maybe leaning J-Dub, and I feel like you were more leaning. You were like I got to put Jaylen Brown third. I have my Jaylen Brown questions.
Yeah,
this is agonizing you. I can tell right now.
Yeah, I think I'm still J-Dub in the
Okay.
rankings here. I think he's number 2 still.
Okay.
I think one thing that really helps. I mean, he's made some spectacular defensive plays. Right. He has not lost any of that incredible defensive value he's had. So maybe he's bled a little bit offensively, and maybe I can say it between you. We're friends. This is a quiet afternoon.
No one's listening.
No one's listening. I'm just a tad lower on Jaylen Brown than a lot of people. So I think there's a little bit of wiggle room where if J-Dub drops just a tiny bit on offense, if he drops a little bit on offense, I still have him as number 2.
You're lower on Jaylen Brown? This is wild. I never did.
Which means I don't hate him. I'm not biased against the Celtics.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Someone in the audience is mentioning that we have sung Christian Brown's praises before during this playoffs. That's another player as well. I don't have any more players I wanted to ask you about. I just have a couple concepts.
Okay. Can we throw one more player?
Sure.
I think we've hit on the biggest names.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have to bring up Anthony Edwards.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was hoping that since I said that you want me to T-Mac this like off the glass to myself?
I just don't know if I feel differently about Anthony. I will say this about Anthony Edwards. He has shown clear improvement as a playmaker with some of his decision-making process. Absolutely. So in that sense, like I've improved my valuation through that lens. But I don't know if that actually changes how there are some people that really, really view him as like a inner circle superstar, and I've never been there.
No. I feel pretty much exactly the same way as before the playoffs. Yeah. I mean, the athleticism, the driving ability, and the strength. I think something that really frustrates him. Listen, I'm on the ground here in Minnesota, so I hear about this series quite a bit, right? And I think something that frustrates the juxtaposition between Shea and Anthony Edwards. These are two guys that play quite a bit differently. I think we see one play where Rudy Gobert is clearly hand checking Shea, and Shea does the he draws a little bit of a foul and whatever else, and ESPN says some derogatory stuff and it's terrible. Anthony Edwards just doesn't do that. Like, it would almost be helpful for Anthony Edwards to try and sell a little bit more contact because he's just so strong driving to the basket.
That's a great point. He does not do that at all.
No.
But I'm waiting for the Reddit guy. Maybe you just need the right Reddit hater to just start making an entire sort of internet's worth a narrative around how he takes 3 steps every time he makes a move. They teach this low gather pickup now, which drives me crazy because it's a travel like 99.9% of the time. But Ant has stopped doing it close to being a travel, and now he just does it with 3 steps. He's like, I'm dribbling. There's the help. Time to take 3 steps. And look, people travel. The rules it doesn't bother me. I'm just saying. I'm just waiting for a guy to maybe start World War III over that. I guess you can't make World War III jokes these days. Cody, I have a team. I have a team I'm higher on.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm higher on them. It's just I think I'm higher on them. I think Denver. What Denver showed was very impressive. And you think about the 3-year run of them being healthy. I was very impressed by their series. But both their series, frankly.
Do you think how much of this is David Adelman, Ben? Like, is this guy poised to have a breakout coaching season if he gets did he get the full-time job? I feel
he got the full-time job.
All right, I didn't know if I AI hallucinated that one. ChatGPT just makes up stuff, and I feel like I do the same thing. Maybe I'm AI. Maybe we're all AI, Ben. Maybe that's
what's going on. What's happening right now?
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if a lot of that was Adelman being able to think on the fly and get a lot of these concepts in. I'm not trying to take away from anything that the players did, but it was really incredible to see a coach come in for 3 regular season games and then be able to coach at that high of a level against the team that is still poised to make probably the title favorites right now. So I think he is somebody that I came away super impressed with. But then, like you said, the Nuggets for being able to actually execute some of these really high level schemes, because I think you take the Nuggets, you take the Timberwolves, and you just compare them 1-to-1. I don't think there's any question that the Timberwolves just have so much more defensive talent. But in terms of how they executed the defensive schemes, the Nuggets are outplaying what we've seen the Timberwolves do.
This gets me to my probably 2 biggest takeaways, like larger scale takeaways about the league in the playoffs from what we've seen in this tournament. Let's stick with defense because you just mentioned it. Speed. And you don't even look at Denver and go, they're a fast team. But it's just when you get to the playoffs, Cody, the effort and the attention to detail and the focus allows the court to get smaller. And that's what good defenses do. They take away the space that stars and teams want to create. And they take away that space by just playing harder, playing smarter, being more attentive. If you think about their defense on Oklahoma City and Shea specifically, they are allowed to essentially load up. Now, I'm not saying Shea just stands out there and dribbles the ball for 20 seconds, but conceptually, as the series goes on, or once they get tape and they get their scout and they play game one, those players start to learn, like, okay, I got to jump in the driving gap here, but then I got to recover. I know if the ball goes here over my head, I got to sprint. And when I see the flight of the ball, I got to get out there. And the guy on the baseline knows that he's got to make a separate rotation as the ball's in the air. And we're all communicating and we're all doing that. And that shrinks the floor. And so the game gets faster. We've talked about officiating and physicality, but the NBA playoff game, and it has for a long time, but it really has jumped out to me in the last couple of years. And again, we see it this year more than ever. Like, the game is faster and the floor is smaller when you're on defense. And you can even see it in stuff like, if you look at, we talked about Anthony Edwards' decision-making and Shea's decision-making, passing windows. Regular season passing windows are open longer and they're bigger because this just isn't present from night to night. And you get to the playoffs and it's like, the guy in the gym doing smelling salts and drinking a Red Bull, and it's just like everyone is going to run through the brick wall on every defensive possession. And that is a huge takeaway. I think we saw that with Denver. I have one more, but I'll get your thoughts on that.
Oh, no. I think you really hit it there. Like the decision windows are so small. And the fact that I think I brought this up in our little live chat yesterday during Thunder Timberwolves, where like, if you're a role player in this series, you basically can't make a pass, right? Because these role players that are out there just are not skilled enough as passers that they might as well just shoot, because half the time if they put the ball on the deck and drive or try and make some kind of kick, like Alex Caruso is going to appear out of nowhere, or Jaden McDaniels is going to appear out of nowhere. One of these guys is just going to get there and pick that pocket. So I think that's one way where it shows up, is that just, these guys that are like 6th, 7th men aren't able to create in the same way that you would see in the regular season.
Now, similarly, it also helps, to a theme we talked about last year, to have longer players, to have bigger players, to have 6'4", 6'6", 6'8" guys that have length and can move. We've talked about it ad nauseum. That's why I think the Oklahoma City Thunder defense is all-time great, because of their combination of length and speed. But it's incredible to be able to compare, like the way we make content at Thinking Basketball, to compare plays in the regular season to the playoffs and be like, oh, that layup, that was a layup. It's cool. Like, I'm going to put it in my notes. Nice layup pass. And what happened at the end of that layup pass? It was blocked by 2 defenders who were just like, it's like some Marvel Universe stuff. They're like, if I don't get there, the world is going to end. And that's the playoffs. The other thing, Cody, was the difference between a team that can run its offense and a team that can only mismatch hunt, because that was such a prevailing theme in the first round and even in parts of the second round based on the teams that advanced. You just turned on games and you didn't necessarily have this like crazy progressive X's and O's out there. And, a couple years ago, it was Golden State running a lot of their motion sets when the league wasn't really up to speed on that. And in 2023, even the Nuggets with some of their sets and playing Jokic off the elbow. And it's like, man, the cutting and the movement, it's carving up people. But so many playoff games this year, you turn it on and you're like, all right, Jalen Brunson's coming up for 74 pick and rolls this game. Or, we saw this in like 75% of the series. The Celtics mismatch hunt organically. We talked about it across the league. And so my takeaway is the teams that can run their offense still and play their identity. The Nuggets just did this in both their series. Man, that's hard to guard. When you have that identity and you have that and it's built in, you don't necessarily have to just go, okay, we got to give our best player the ball every time and then try to find a mismatch for him and pick and roll. And then everybody gets out of the way and we see what can happen. The Warriors obviously had that. Of course, the Warriors weren't eliminated from, I don't know what happened to the Warriors. They were sent into a black hole or something. The Indiana Pacers have that in spades. The Indiana Pacers play the same way all the time. It reminds me of the 2011 Dallas Mavericks They just don't play the scoreboard. They just go, 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 go. High process, high IQ. Everyone knows their role. Remind me who coached the 2011 Dallas Mavericks?
That was also Rick Carlisle, Ben.
It was Rick Carlisle. Yeah. So that has been a big thing for me. Teams that still basically run their offense, even the Knicks still try to run some of their funny little sets for Jalen Brunson off ball and get him in position and things like that. So it's fascinating to me to watch. Obviously, the Thunder, they run the same offense now. It's a Shea-centric offense, but you'll notice that the Thunder don't have to basically play a style that's like, get Shea the ball, start pointing and try to call someone up, find the weak spot. Nah, they're trying to play their stuff, get to the middle of the floor, get to their spots, drive, kick, collapse, go from there. And the teams that can play like that, I think there is an inherent advantage in the postseason because of everything we've talked about in this episode and in the last month. Speed, shrinking the floor, scheme, two-way players, depth, right? How the coaching magnifies. We've talked the physicality. We've talked about fit. It's just like if you can do that with your offense against these defenses, you're starting at a much higher floor and baseline than the teams who can only mismatch on.
And I didn't track it, but I feel like when the Knicks had their huge comeback in Game 3, a lot of the offense that the Pacers were running, like I feel like there's a lot more of Halliburton getting these switches and attacking them, and it took the flow out of what they like to do with all of the movement and whatnot. And I had the point I was going to make about the Thunder is what's interesting about them too is the offense they want to run is actually just like, we're going to create so many turnovers and we're going to cascade you. We're going to throw a cascade of transition runouts at you. And I think that was a big part of why they ended up losing by 100 against the Timberwolves that one game, is because the Timberwolves actually forced more turnovers than them. And if the Thunders aren't getting to that offense, that sort of transition offense, it takes away some of the other stuff that they're able to do. So it's interesting to think about, like, how does this, if this team were to go on a run, what does it look like and how would they want to get onto that run?
Now, hold on a second, Cody. These turnovers you speak of, that the Thunder, I was told that they are all fouls. Is that not correct?
Okay. Where are you going with this one?
I'm just saying, I was told that when, like, you throw a cross-court pass and Cason Wallace comes screaming out of nowhere, by the way, Cason Wallace, I mean, everyone should be higher on Cason Wallace. Cason Wallace comes screaming out of nowhere and catches the ball out of midair. I was told he's fouling the air or something, and that it's illegal, and that, let me check my notes here. The NBA is rigging it for Oklahoma City and Indiana.
That would be a foul.
The dream finals, which is so ironic because from a basketball perspective, it is a dream finals. You have the cutting edge, incredible future of defense against the cutting edge, maybe future of incredible offense, and just all sorts of like it's a great basketball finals. These are teams that I've really enjoyed all year and we've covered all year, and it's so ironic because, you know, from a marketing perspective, it's like, what? Oklahoma City and Indiana, no one's going to watch. And it's like, but it's ridiculously amazing basketball.
What would be the ideal setup? Like if the NBA was actually rigging it, like the Knicks would obviously be in the finals.
No, they wouldn't. No.
Based on these four teams.
The Lakers would be in the finals against the Golden State Warriors. That would be the finals.
Oh man, I don't remember what I was going to say. I was going to say.
By the way, I'm not saying that on behalf. People are going to be like, the NBA said this because Ben said this. No, I'm not saying that on behalf of the NBA at all. I only collaborate with the NBA. I'm just saying, just as a neutral viewer, I'm just saying.
What I was going to say is I think the defensive guy that gets the most hatred for this is Alex Caruso. People seem to think that he fouls basically every possession that he's out there. And he gets called for fouls. I don't know about you, but I watch and I see Alex Caruso go out there and he gets called for a foul. I'm like, yeah, that was a foul.
Doesn't he have a ridiculously high foul rate?
Does he? I actually don't know it off the top of my head.
Yes.
I think my favorite thing is...
Or as they might say on the broadcast, he's a foul merchant.
Stop it. Stop it. We can ban that right now. We're done with all of that. The Thunder were so good at getting Alex Caruso, especially against the zone. Like I think you talked about the Timberwolves running kind of more vanilla type of zone. The middle is open, and the Thunder were able to get Caruso in the middle quite a bit to spray it out and make some kinds of decisions there. There was actually quite a few. This wasn't last game. I think it was the game before, but he was able to get like 6 feet away, and he's like, okay, I guess I'm just gonna float this one right in. But the Timberwolves came back and they were running like the anti-Jokic zone, where it's like, we are going to station Rudy Gobert up top. He's going to hang out at the nail. Alex Caruso, you are not catching in the middle anymore. No more of this nonsense around the basket.
So it was good. It was good for them. It was good for them not to just give up that catch in the middle of the zone every time. But it was also like, speaking of you're checking your notes after, you're like, wait, so did they run a zone with Rudy Gobert at the top of the zone, or just wherever the guy in the middle? Was it what the heck was going on? Was it a zone where Rudy Gobert was not assigned to a player, but a vertical part of the court? Like, he's like, Rudy, you patrol the middle 8 feet of the court from under the basket out to 10 feet beyond the 3-point line. That's your responsibility in the zone. Vertical movement. That's all you're doing.
This would probably be, maybe I shouldn't give out a free video idea. Maybe we'll talk about it, but I think there should be a deep investigation of zones. I think that would be a really interesting post playoff, because the amount of different kinds of zones we've seen.
You can put that idea out there. No one's going to do it.
No.
Zones are so complicated. I've been trying to make we've been trying to make like a documentary on zones for like 3 years. It may come out one day. It's going to take like 3 hours just to explain the most. The zones now are incredible. By the way,
go ahead.
Stats department's on it. Alex Caruso has about the same foul rate in the playoffs as Jaren Jackson Jr. did in the regular season.
Wow. And
the caveat here is that guards usually have lower foul rates. So, like, if you compare Alex Caruso's foul rate to like Michael Jordan, it's almost double. He's almost committing twice as many fouls.
We don't accept facts here, Ben.
Sorry, what was I thinking? Go ahead, Cody.
I think a concept I'm higher on is zones, Ben. And let me ask you this right off the cuff. Let's see if you have something thought out. Who has run your favorite zone you've seen in the playoffs so far?
I think it's got to be the Rockets. Ooh. Because that like double big matchup zone was so cool. But the question is it a little too Warriors specific? Right? Because of the way the Warriors like to cut and move and take away the split cuts and the slips and all this. I feel like Zach Lowe gets excited about the slips and the split cuts. Yeah, I think it's got to be that zone. But man, there have been some really good ones. The Nuggets was really. That's your answer?
I kind of think so. Like, they really gave the Thunder some fits with that zone and used it so intelligently. And I think the fact that, like I said, comparing them one-on-one to the Timberwolves, that they don't have the defensive personnel that would make you go crazy. I think that's what made it so impressive to me.
To support us, patreon.com/thinkingbasketball. It's the best way to do it. That's where you can get all that member content and our playoff stats board and our regular season stats board and all these things that update throughout the year. Patreon.com/thinkingbasketball. If you also just want videos and you can stream along, you can watch along as we do the live podcast, you can sign up on YouTube as a member over there. Cody, any final thoughts or bits that you would like to do now that I've gotten the outro and that regular part of the podcast out of the way?
Oh my goodness. Usually I do have some bits set up, but I don't have anything.
Can I mention your performance on the court this week?
Yeah, go for it.
So, I mean, you can correct me wherever, but basically, Cody played in some kind of teacher faculty game this week, and the kids are really good, like Division I athletes and maybe some basketball players that are gonna play college basketball, and so the teachers have to go up against this. It's very daunting, and he tells us about it, and he's like the good news is I drilled a 3, and he sends us this clip, and it's like if you squint, it's Sam Hauser. It's just this like beautiful flowing 3-pointer from the top, and this is what really gets me and why I want to tell the story. I assumed that when Cody told me he was in this student teacher faculty game, that it was going to be like 18 people in like, a half of an auditorium or something, where they just dropped a basketball hoop on one end. There was a wall that the hoop was on. No, this was in like a stadium, and it was filled with the stands. We only have like 5 seconds of video evidence, but it was as loud. I'm just going to say it was probably as loud as Madison Square Garden anytime. So, that clip where like Latrell Sprewell Larry Johnson hits the 4-point play against the Pacers in 1999, and then they show the whole match and the crowd goes crazy and you can't even hear. There were like, how many fans were there? Like 20,000 fans? It was insane.
Well, the high school I teach at is like 2,500 students, right? And I would say like most of them were there. And the only thing that I could think about is just like how relative nervousness is. right? Because like I lost sleep before this. I haven't played competitive basketball in a couple of years. Like I'll go and shoot around sometimes, and I lost sleep being like, wow, I'm going to make an absolute mockery of myself in front of thousands of. It's probably the biggest crowd I've ever played basketball in front of. And I was like, huh, it's weird. Like the further you go up, I don't know if you get like, I don't know if I could have been more nervous than I was at that point. Like if I was an NBA player going to the finals, it's just weird how relatively that works. Like maybe some people are like, wow, I can't present to these 10 people in this conference. And it's the same kind of thing. Like that's as nervous as you get. And that was the psychological takeaway that I had from this experience.
Can I share the clip? You're the gatekeeper of it. I have it. I can press a button right now and it can show up.
Live on the show.
Yeah, I can do it right now.
Let's hold off on that.
Okay.
One.
Okay.
Let's see. Just because I think there's students in that one. And that's probably not great.
Okay.
To share. So
yeah, I'll let you you handle the request for that clip.
Mm-hmm.
It is quite an amazing clip.
I felt good about it because, like I said, I took the three, and when I went into it, I was like, you know what? I'm only taking shots near the basket because you get a little tight. You're nervous. The jump shot's a little wonky. But as you can, like, I'm wide open. I'm like, I gotta take this shot and just see what happens. And all I remember is I shot it, and I'm like, please just make it to the rim. Just at least make it to the rim. It at least went in. Then.
I was worried you were going to injure yourself. I'm at that age where Cody's like, I haven't played in a while and I got to play in this game. And I was like giving him, I was like, Cody, okay, stay under the basket. If you're on defense, don't try to guard anyone. You will lose an ACL. Just let them go by you.
That's what I told my wife ahead of time. I'm like, I'm going to take it easy. Like, this is going to be a fun game. And I was talking to one of the kids beforehand. I'm like, hey, take it easy on us. And he's like, now we're going to kill you guys. Like, all right, this is what's going to happen. But you get out there and you just kind of lose. Like the crowd's going, all of a sudden you find yourself sprinting around the court. And you're like, wow, I'm lucky I probably didn't like tear an Achilles or something like that.
Thanks as always for listening all the way with us on this one. And of course, we hope you are having a great day.